"I'm here for the job interview," the tiny voice announced from beneath a floppy pink hat, barely visible over the receptionist's desk. Linda looked up from her screen, blinking in surprise. Standing there, clutching a worn leather folder with both hands, was a little girl, no more than 9 years old. Her pigtails were slightly uneven, her shoes scuffed, but her eyes held a strange, unwavering determination that stopped Linda mid-breath. You're here for the interview?" she repeated, more gently now. The girl nodded solemnly. "My mom's sick. So I came instead." It had all started that morning in a tiny apartment 2 bus rides away from the city center. Emma had woken to the sound of her mother, Carla, coughing, deep, rattling, painful. The fever had returned overnight. Carla had been fighting pneumonia for weeks, but she hadn't cancelled the job interview scheduled for today. She couldn't afford to. It was their last chance to keep the apartment, to put food on the table. Emma had watched her mother struggle to get dressed, her hands trembling as she tried to button her blouse. "Mom," Emma whispered, "stay in bed. Please." Carla collapsed back into the couch, exhausted. "But the interview." "I'll go," Emma said softly. "I'll go for you." Carla laughed, thinking it was a child's game. But Emma wasn't playing. She picked up the resume her mom had printed and slid it into her pink backpack. Carla's cough interrupted her protest, and before she could argue again, Emma was gone. Linda wasn't sure what to do. She looked down the hall toward the office of Mr. Alexander King, the notoriously cold and brilliant CEO of King Tech Incorporated. The man was worth millions and had a reputation for being ruthless in business and blind to emotion. He didn't do soft. Still, something about the little girl's courage stirred something in Linda. She picked up the phone and called his assistant. "Mr. King? You're going to want to see this." Alexander King was a man of routines. His days were scheduled to the minute, his expressions rarely changed, and his decisions never wavered. When he stepped into the interview room and saw a child seated on the leather chair across the table, he frowned. This must be a mistake. Emma stood up and extended a small hand. "Hello, Mr. King. My name is Emma Carter. My mom was supposed to be here, but she's really sick. So I thought I could come tell you about her instead." King didn't shake her hand. But he didn't send her away either. "Why?" he asked bluntly. "Why would you do something like this?" Emma reached into her folder and pulled out the resume. "Because we really need this job. And because my mom is the hardest working person I know. She used to be an accountant before she had to take care of me full time. Then she got sick. But she never gave up. She's smart. She's kind. And she's really, really tired." She paused. "And I thought, if I told you about her, maybe you'd give her a chance." King stared at her. He had interviewed thousands of candidates, closed billion-dollar deals. But this little girl, barely up to his waist, was looking him in the eye with more courage than most executives he'd met in his life. "Tell me something," he said slowly. "What makes you think she deserves this job?" Emma's lip quivered, but she held it together. "Because even when we had no dinner, she gave me the last piece of bread. Because she tucks me in after working all night. Because she believes people like us still matter, even if we don't have much. And because I believe in her." The room fell silent. The next hour was unlike anything King had ever experienced. Emma didn't talk about stocks or systems, she talked about her mom's resilience, how she once handled their building's finances when the landlord disappeared, how she helped neighbors file taxes to make ends meet, how she always smiled even when there were holes in her shoes. Linda stood outside the glass room, listening, hand pressed to her heart. And slowly, Alexander King, CEO, Millionaire, Titan of industry, felt something shift. The next day, Carla Carter woke to find her daughter sitting beside her with a bowl of soup, and a letter. "What's this?" Emma smiled, eyes twinkling. He said you're hired. Carla's hands trembled as she unfolded the letter. It wasn't just a job offer, it was a full-time role in King Tekka's financial department, with benefits, health coverage, and a flexible schedule. At the bottom, scrawled in bold handwriting, were the words. Sometimes the best recommendation comes from love. A.K. Over the following weeks, Carla flourished. She brought fresh ideas, streamlined outdated processes, and quickly became one of the most trusted members of the team. Emma visited the office often, always greeted by name. As for Alexander King, something in him changed too. He began a new initiative, the Carter Program, designed to give second chances to people who had been overlooked by the corporate world. Single parents. Caregivers. Veterans. Anyone who had fought too hard for too little. And every time someone asked what inspired the change, he would say, "A little girl walked into my office one day and reminded me what real courage looks like." The story of Emma and Carla Carter became more than a moment, it became a movement. Because sometimes, the most powerful voice in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one willing to speak when everyone else says, "You don't belong." And sometimes, showing up for someone else, changes everything. Moral of the story. Never underestimate the courage of a child who loves with all her heart. And never forget, the smallest voice can carry the biggest truth. End scene, fade out with soft piano music, images of Carla and Emma working, laughing, living better lives. The Carter Program banner in the background. Quote on screen. Believe in others. Believe in second chances. Believe in love.